Now, a plan for success. Everyone's got to have it. If you don't have a plan for success defined specifically, you will fail. Even if the numbers in your mind are good at your practice, we know if you don't have a specific plan for success that they should be 30% higher in the first year, or maybe by the end of the second year. You have to have a specifically defined plan for success to avoid failure. But what does that plan look like and how do you do it? And that's what we're going to start into here to get across to you the difference between a goal and a result. And now we're going to start talking about exactly what that plan is. So take notes on this because you can take this back and you can start implementing it immediately. A 4-step plan for success. It starts off with a result. Then you define your goal to help get to that result, a plan of action, and then measure and analyze. And we're going to break these down step by step and walk through these. The first one is you have to start backwards. That's a huge problem that a lot of people don't do. They try to start from step 1. Well, this really is your step 1. It's reversing and working backwards. Define your end result. And obviously what you see on the screen is simply an example. There's hundreds upon hundreds more that we could work on with. So what is defining it from the end result? Well, I want to improve my new patient conversion via the telephones by 15%. Now I have an example from 70% to 85%, and when we get into the measurement, the analytics, and how you track this stuff, and how it must be tracked, you need to be tracking it to begin with to know if you're even at 70%. That way you have some kind of boundary, some kind of foundation. But if you don't have that foundation, you're going to be operating blind. We're going to get more at that into a minute. But every practice, and it's frustrating to us sometimes because sometimes doctors don't believe it. But even the most successful, and many times it's the ones that are most successful that have the most lost opportunities because the amount of incoming calls they get. But define that you want to improve your new patient conversions over the phone. And then this will equate to an estimated 3 additional new patients monthly. Now, do you know that for a fact? No. It may equate to 10 new patients a month, or maybe just 1, depending on how many incoming calls you're getting that are being dropped, what your presence is online, etc. So you don't know any of these as a for certain number, which is why you have to start somewhere, because over time, as you analyze and measure it, you'll be able to get the defined numbers to where you can more accurately define your end result as you move on with this. The next one is that when I add 3 additional new patients monthly, this will equate to an estimated increase in production of 5,000 monthly. Now, if you're an orthodontic practice, that could be 15,000 monthly if you're charging, $5,000 for Invisalign, as an example. But we're using a conservative number here because maybe they just come in for a cleaning if you're a hygiene practice and maybe you don't close them on anything for a while. But that still could result in a referral that's not talked about in this end result. Obviously, this is just an example. Now, out of that 5,000 addition in production each month, that's going to equate to an estimated increase in production of 60,000 annually. And see, that's how this works, and this is how you skyrocket practice growth, because if you look at every single business or every single aspect that is going on inside your practice every single day, if you look at that as its own separate business entity, this is how you will skyrocket your practice. This is one of the reasons why our clients consistently explode their practice numbers, because every operation inside your business, inside your practice, is its own separate entity. And if you define an end result for every single process that you have, the sky's the limit. So from the phones alone, if your goal is to simply improve the conversion, if your end result, is to improve the conversion, that right there could equate to $60,000 annually just by doing that, without spending one dime on marketing or anything, just focusing on that. Now, notice we're starting at the end, we're working backwards, because now that's what you want to be the end result. Now you have to define your goals to ensure you're able to accomplish and reach your end result. So what your goals are going to be is, I want to ensure that my staff is trained better than anybody in the community, or the profession for that matter, on 5-star customer service. Because think about it, we have this conversation a lot. And for those of you who are clients, you've heard this till you're blue in the face. You probably know what I'm about to say. Healthcare receptionists are not trained on 5-star customer service. They don't come with that. So if they went and they gave their resume to a Ritz-Carlton, they couldn't get hired. However, you trust them to do that same thing every single day. And that's a problem in healthcare. So get them 5-star customer trained, service customer trained. The other one is that you need to teach them, or they need to be taught, how to add more value to what you offer over the competition. That's got to be a goal for you to achieve your end result. Another goal for you to achieve what your end result was in that last example is to ensure they're taught how to be more efficient and remain in control of the conversation at all times. And then that last goal would be how to handle objections when thrown at them on the phone. Because when you accomplish that, you're going to end up converting more new patients that are asking about price. If you're an orthodontic practice involved with the Invisalign concierge, what if it's a second opinion call? Do you take my insurance? All of those happen every single day to every practice. Some more than others, but they all deal with it. So if these here are your goals, these, if accomplished, are going to help you achieve the end result that we talked about in the first screen. Now, you've got to have a plan of action. So many businesses, so many CEOs that run the businesses that's in and out of healthcare, they talk about a lot of great stuff. We want to do this. I really think we can achieve that. But they miss a very important critical piece, and that's a plan of action. And I know you guys being the doctor, sometimes you wonder, how in the world am I going to have time to do this? The problem is you have to work on your business as much as you do the clinical portion. So if that means you have to do it at 8 o'clock at night while watching TV on an iPad, that's what you got to do. Because that's what high-level CEOs do. They go to bed when they're done on the business components of their operation. And until then, they don't go to bed. So this plan of action has to happen. So this is an example of a plan of action. And again, remember, these are all just examples we're giving. So to accomplish my goal, I am going to locate a company by the 1st of next month that specializes in training staff members in a way that will help accomplish the goal I defined, or the goals I've defined. And then I want my team trained on the 2nd and 4th Thursdays of every month for the next year on high-level methods proven to increase customer service, verbiage, and presentation skills. That is now your plan of action, because now, if the 1st of the next month comes and you haven't done what that first paragraph, that first sentence says, you know you're behind schedule. If you come and you look and your team isn't being trained on the 2nd and 4th Thursdays or something of the equivalent of every month for the next year, you're behind schedule. And that's on you as a CEO to ensure your company remains on or ahead of schedule. Extremely, extremely important. So that's your plan of action. And again, this is something I hope you're taking notes on, because this is something you can go back and you can implement. You can implement it for hygiene, Invisalign. There's so many things this can be implemented for, but it should be implemented for every one of them. Now, measure, analyze, something that is not done in very many practices, businesses for that matter. You have to have full visibility of whether or not your staff is improving, whether or not they are headed towards the end result that you defined of improving conversion 15%. You have to have full visibility of that. And the way you would do that with that one is ensuring that your front desk is tracking all new patient calls versus how many they were scheduled on a daily basis. That has to happen, but it has to happen through a multitude of methods. Now I'm going to show you here, and then we're going to get into some analyzation. Some of you have heard a lot of it already, but it's good to hear it again. Something like this should be taped by every single telephone in your office. Has to. Calls received, calls scheduled, and where they heard about you. It is inexcusable for any new patient call to not be completed into a form like this. Has to. Otherwise, how do you have visibility on your strengths and weaknesses? You're operating blind. We need more new patients. Let's go spend money on a pay-per-click campaign or a postcard campaign. Meanwhile, the front desk lady just missed 7 opportunities the month before, and you don't know it because it's not being tracked. And once it's being tracked, it gives you a foundation, a metric to know if your end result is being reached. It gives you a metric on your strengths and weaknesses so you know what to focus on. I mean, if you're absolutely great in one area, you're probably not going to invest too much money in growing that area. You're probably going to focus on some more weaknesses that you could grow. But until you track everything, and again, this is just an example, because there are so many other examples that we're going to get into now, in that